So, first off, I'd like to say hello to you, Queenie, and thank you for joining us here on your new favorite song. Very happy to have you. Thank you for your time.
Thank, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, how's it going on your end? Because it's what is it, 9 a.m. over there right now?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock in the morning here. It's been really hot. It's been like 30, I think. Yeah, for you guys, probably like 100, maybe 100 degrees Fahrenheit or something. So it's been pretty hot here.
Wow. Okay, we're like
39 degrees every day.
wow. Okay, that's a little nicer than it's been here. It's been a lot of snow and a lot of ice. It's very,
Yeah, true.
I guess it is kind of bizarre. Well, okay. Do you mind if I got some questions here? You mind if I launch into them?
Yeah, go for it.
So my first question for you here is how'd you come up with the name Queenie? Because when I was doing my research, I know that for a while you've been releasing under the name Heloise. So I'm wondering what kind of inspired the switch with your name.
Queenie was actually what my mum was going to call me before she decided on Eloise.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess it was like kind of a new chapter for me musically and like a life chapter as well. So I thought I wanted a new name for a new project and to sort of start again. So I decided to not go back to the previous name of Heloise and just start a whole new thing. And Queenie just seemed to fit. Two syllables. It's nice and easy to put on a poster.
Fun. It's like all the big artists, like you got what Cher, you got Drake, you just need the one name. That's it.
Just one. Yeah.
Exactly. So, building on that, as I was kind of learning more about you, I saw this phrase keep cropping up. They called Queenie the your trash queen alter ego, and I'm wondering where that came from. How did you kind of land on that?
I actually don't know who it was that coined that phrase, but it's funny because a lot of the time people ask me if, my stage persona is a separate entity to my actual persona, but I think they're very, very closely linked. I don't think there's a lot on stage that's not, me in real life.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but I think it might have been in like a news article or um, a radio interview or something that I did, and someone coined that phrase,
It's
and I
kind
just rolled with it. So
of fun. I like it.
I'm a bit of a trash queen. So
Another question for you here, because we're in Detroit, and I know more folks here would kind of love to know more about you and kind of get some context before diving into your music proper. And so I got a couple more questions kind of about that to ask you.
Mhm.
In my research, I found that you said that when you were growing up, you were going to a lot of your parents' gigs, and that your mom was actually a successful musician, Stephanie Howell. And so I'm wondering, how did growing up around a musical family kind of affect you and shape your relationship with music?
I love that you've done your research. Yes, that's true. I did. I grew up in a very musical family, and my mum has always been a huge support for me following music as my dream career. But like I was really lucky. I grew up with instruments everywhere in the house. My brother's also plays in my band. He was a musician too. Um, and I think just being exposed to going to gigs, when I was 3 to 5 years old, a lot of the time we'd have a little tiny blanket under the mixing desk and would sleep while mum was playing a show and then we'd go home. So I think my introduction to the music industry was, from a very early age. I was on stage in the womb. So I
Seriously.
was probably, yeah. There's video footage of my pregnant mum playing a rock show at a festival they used to hold in Tassie, like
Yeah.
Tasmania, where I'm from.
Mhm.
And she is very pregnant with me. So there you go.
That's really good. I hope you were kicking along to the beat in there.
I hope I was too. Hopefully.
Boy, that's cool. And then kind of building on what you said there, because I saw you started playing guitar like when you were 9. That's when you started songwriting, and it said you were kind of performing at the Rock Summer School in Tasmania. I'm kind of curious how do you think that kind of getting into music at that age and kind of starting to perform at that age affected perhaps your trajectory or your kind of, I guess, life going forward, getting such an early introduction to music like that?
Yeah, I think it definitely shaped my life from then on. I got a taste for it pretty young. So I think having done that and been able to perform on stage, like the Rock Summer School was such a fantastic initiative for young musicians. And yet Tasmania's a really small island and Launceston's a really small town. And it was such a great, way for young kids and young musicians to have the full experience of, professional lighting, a huge audience, big stage, the whole shebang. And so I think I was really lucky that I got to experience, a proper performance really early on in my life. And I think that was, definitely started the bug for me. And I was really lucky that it was, early on. So that was just what I wanted to do. I decided then and there that that was my whole life. So it definitely was very important, I think, in determining my trajectory from then on.
And
Yeah, for sure.
was your brother playing with you back then, or when did he start playing with you?
He did do the Rock Summer School. I can't remember if we had a show together. We might have done. I did it for a long time. I
Yeah.
started when I was 9 and I finished when I was 18. So,
Wow.
but they often put you in bands with people, your own age or try, close to your age as possible. So I think Lewis, he's a little bit younger than me. So he was often in the with the younger guys. But yeah, it took us a long time. We've tried the family band a few times and, wanted to rip each other's heads off. So when you put three redheads in a room together and make them play music, it does end well. So yeah, but yeah, it's great playing with him now. I'm really lucky to have him in the band.
Was he in either of the bands like Badgers or Bone Shack, or was that different folks?
No, yeah, that was different. Yeah, the Badgers. We've had a couple of drummers in Badgers. That's been our
It's
um.
like King Gizzard or separate?
What's that? Sorry.
Did you have two drummers at the same time, like a King Gizzard sort of deal, or were they
Oh, I wish. People need to bring back the double drummer. I think more double drums.
in real life?
But yeah, yeah, they were definitely great early projects that sort of, um, I guess, were really important in my early, songwriting and getting to, I guess, figure out who I was as a performer too. So yeah,
Well, I have to imagine if you've been doing perform like live performances for that long, like, and maybe I'm wrong here, but is there a certain level of comfort now when you're up on stage, having been doing it for this amount of time?
I still get really nervous.
Yeah. Never
I'm,
goes away.
I get so nervous, but I love it. I think now I've done it so much now that I know that I can do it. So it's never like I get stage fright and like I want to do it so bad because it, is like the best feeling in the world. But yeah, I still get really nervous.
That's you just
Sometimes more than others, but yeah, it depends what it is.
well, thank you for explaining that. You mind if I dive into the album now, the new one here?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love that.
So let's see what we got here. First of all, congrats on recording, releasing, getting that out there because I know that I don't think people realize how much work actually goes to getting new music out there. So that's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. You're so right. It is a tough journey these days.
And so I guess let's start off with the name of the album because I thought that was very interesting. It's called New Molt. And I think you said in an interview that it came from a Facebook group about spiders you found. It's something about kind of like the limbs growing. If you could explain to me kind of how you came to that title and why you thought that was fitting for the album you were putting out.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a bug freak. So I love bugs and insects.
Really?
And yeah, love them. And I went through this phase in 2020 where I obviously we had a really severe lockdown here in Victoria, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And one of my obsessions throughout that time was spiders. I just joined this Facebook group called Australian spider identification because obviously we have a lot of spiders here, and so I wanted to know what was going on and who these little visitors were that I was having in my house.
Mhm.
And I got to learn more about, I guess, spiders as an insect, well, as an arachnid, and the fact that if they're young enough in their life cycle and they lose a limb or like a part of their body, they can molt their skin and regrow it.
Mhm.
And I guess that served as such a beautiful metaphor for, I suppose, what I was going through in my life at the time. Like I just ended a 10-year relationship. So, and we were going into lockdowns and no one really knew what was going on. And the world was pretty, crazy at that time. And I guess I went through a big growth period of really figuring out who I was because it's the first time I'd been alone since I was like 16. So,
Wow. Yeah.
um, I guess, yeah, metaphorically, it was about shedding my skin and regrowing those parts of myself, that had been metaphorically chopped off, I guess.
So thanks for explaining that. I think that's like that's a fun kind of, well, fun and also just like a unique way to kind of express that metaphor that you hear so often in music. It's kind of, I feel like it's a uniquely Australian thing to say, let's take this terrifying insect and make a really powerful emotional kind of experience with that.
You gotta have both ends of the spectrum, right?
Exactly. Have you ever had a pet spider?
No, I've never had a pet one. Sometimes they live in my house for a while and then they disappear and do whatever the spiders do. So, and we name them.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I guess I have had some pet spiders. Not by their choice, but yeah.
for the fun, right? So my next question here for you is the way I found your music was that we played your song The Curse, and I think what kind of clicked and what got it on the show was that you had this part building up into the second chorus of that song where you have like, I think, is that a saxophone playing with the eclectic percussion, the way like the guitar and the bass are bouncing off each other. Like it's very fun. And I'm like, this is really cool. So then we went and listened to the album. And right after that, you've got the song Eggshells, which has this really lovely like string section in the second verse. And so what I'm kind of interested in hearing you explain, I suppose, is how did you kind of go about navigating the balancing act of having both this really fun, like kind of alt rock sort of like pop music, and then balance that with these really kind of like emotionally effective, kind of more acoustic or piano led pieces? I guess, how do you walk that line to create a cohesive album like that?
That's a really great question. And I like that you like eggshells because that's my favorite song. But I think it goes by the wayside sometimes. um, that was a huge thing, I think, during the recording process because some of the songs were a little bit older and there was another couple that we wrote in the studio as we were recording it that were, I guess, skeletons that I'd had for a little while and we fleshed them out, my producer and I. And I think our goal was, to bring these sort of, because it is quite varied. There's not really one genre.
Yes.
And our kind of goal was to have, I guess, like a cohesive running thread that went through the whole album. That if you listened to any song from it, you knew what it was or where it came from.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it was necessarily a super conscious decision as we were recording, but it was something that we discussed. And also, like, we did the whole album in this tiny little church that my producer renovated on his property. He lives out in a place called Bollingett, which is like an hour and 40 minutes out of Melbourne. And it's surrounded by pine trees and rolling hills and cows and like potato farms.
Like,
And the outlook is so beautiful. And like we did all the vocals, it was winter for most of the time and it was cold. So we had like a big wood heater and so many of the vocal tracks you can hear the fire crackles and you can hear obviously if you listen really carefully on, a good pair of headphones, you can hear a lot of the sounds that run like throughout the church,
Mhm.
which is, I think, also again like a really nice way to, I guess, glue all the songs together because there's these really similar parts that run through the songs, and we use like all of similar instruments across it. So we sort of thought, if we've got these quite sort of varied songs genre wise, but using similar instruments, and it's all created in this one little space, then it's, you know, going to sound cohesive. So yeah,
Oh, that's a real okay. That and if I'm a little off base here, let me know that. But this sounds kind of similar to how Bon Iver went about recording for Emma forever ago, like kind of hold up and using the same instruments to create that same cohesive vision. And that's I'm sound, hearing like a similar kind of process you were going through here.
yeah, we're both big Boy Bear fans, so
But
I'm sure that definitely subconsciously seeped in there.
I
But
think
yeah,
no, that's really cool. I think there's something kind of I've found at least when I'm listening to music, I really appreciate artists who are able to create kind of a cohesive narrative and to have a sort of mood that carries throughout the whole piece. So it's not just like, you know, singles and then fillers.
song. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wonder, is that like a conscious effort when you're kind of going through the album? Like, are you focusing on, I want, some really kind of punchy singles to pull people in, or do I want to create one big project here? And my preferred way for people to hear it is as the one album all the way through.
Mm. It's funny. I think because it was, I guess, a collection of songs, and some of them are old. Like Mama, I wrote when I was maybe 24, so a little while ago, 6 years ago. And it was an interesting challenge to, like, I guess, bring them all together because they were from such different parts of my life.
Mhm.
And, the things that I wrote them about, I felt like I lived 5 lifetimes in the 4 years, since I started writing those songs. And yeah, I think being able to bring them so they sound like a consistent thread runs through them, but they don't all sound the same. And because it was my first album, obviously, a lot of the time when an artist does their first album, it's all the songs they've been holding on to for so long.
Mhm.
But I think I've just written another one. And I think because I set myself the task of actually sitting down and being really disciplined and writing, I said to myself, I'm going to write another album and I'm going to do it in 2 months because I've never done that before. I've
Seriously.
always just written when I feel like it, or if I was sad or if something happened or it was 2 a.m. and I randomly thought about something in my head and I was like, I'm going to write this song right now. And so I really actually sat down and just made myself write a song like every day or every second day. And from those songs, I guess I've pulled, 12 songs that I think are probably a little more close to each other vibe wise
Mhm.
and maybe less varied than the first album. And I think that's, I guess, just because they were written closer together and, from a similar phase in my life. So,
Wow.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah. Okay, so do you find that that was difficult kind of switching up that process from it instead of it being like, I'm in the mood for it, I'm going to do this, like having that more of that structure? Did you find that that made it easier? Do you find that that kind of informed creative decisions a little differently, that way of doing it?
Yeah, it was definitely a different process for me because that's the first time I've done it and really set myself like a task.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's great. Like it's great for my songwriting. And you speak to so many people who are like, just sit down, write a song every day. If it sucks, doesn't matter. Like, you know, if you write 100 songs, at least 10 of them are going to be good. So I just wanted to really, I guess, as a, not to prove anything to myself, but just as an experiment to see, I guess, what happened. And yeah, it was a different process for sure. But I think it was really good for me to explore that, part of songwriting where you will write a crappy song that you hate and it's never going to see the light of day. But the actual process itself of, like writing and writing just for the sake of writing, I think is really important for growth as an artist
Sure.
and a songwriter. Yeah.
So do you find, because you play primarily guitar, right? That was your first kind of instrument. So
Yeah.
do you find then that you are like almost like I've got a melody that sounds great, or I've got a chord progression here I really like, or do you approach it more like I've got these lyrics I think sound great, or is it a mix of both? Like what's the process of writing a song a day? Because that sounds very daunting.
It all falls out at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some people write lyrics and then they'll write a melody afterwards, or they'll write a melody in their head with lyrics. My ex-partner and I have written heaps of songs together, and he will write like an entire song and remember all of the lyrics and have a melody, and then he'll go and take it and he'll write all the instrumental parts. And that's so impressive to me because I would just sit down and be like, blah, 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 and all the words and all the melody and all the guitar just kind of falls out at once. And I just kind of mess around until, something sticks, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm also really bad at remembering lyrics. So it takes me a while. I'm one of those people who'll be like, oh, I've just written this new song and can play it from their memory. I have to write the whole thing down. So. Which is limiting in some ways, but
Yeah.
got to do what you got to do, I suppose.
You find you've forgotten songs and written better ones afterwards, or is there anywhere you're like, I wish I had recorded that sooner or written it down sooner?
So many times, so many times. Or I've woken up and been like, oh, I've just dreamt the most amazing song. Oh, it's fine. I'll remember it in the morning. And you never do.
Never do.
You never do. But yeah, and like I think it's been good sometimes where I have actually forgotten how something goes and then it's led to something else. Or I've tried to rewrite it and then ended up writing another song.
Hmm.
So yeah, everything's useful in the end
Sure.
in some way.
Yeah. You write stuff with the intention of like playing it with the live band, or is it you're more focused on kind of how it'll sound in the studio on the record?
Yeah, definitely more how it sounds with a live band and in this, yeah, I guess as a full piece. I think I've always been someone who works better with other people, and it's taken me a long time to accept that,
Hmm.
and that it's okay for me to just write the bones of songs and then take it and give it to someone else who's going to bring it to life, I guess, because I'm not a producer, I'm not a multi instrumentalist, and so I'm limited in what I can do musically and instrumentally, I suppose. And so being able to just accept that if I just write a verse and a chorus and then I take it to the band or I take it to my producer and they put all this magical stuff on there and, you know, 25 marimba solos and some weird, like crazy instrument that's a cross between a bagpipe and a flute and a kalimba all in one. And it sounds amazing, then that's fine. And I think that's been really good for me growth wise because I've stopped getting frustrated at myself, for not being able to like do everything. And so now, like when I write songs, I write with it in mind that they're not perfect and they're not a finished song for
Mhm.
me necessarily. I mean, yeah, I'd love to do just a little album with me and a guitar and a room mic, old, like an old blues record.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely write with bigger visions in mind.
Thank you for explaining that.
No, no worries.
I got another question about the kind of songwriting here. So kind of focusing more on, I guess, a specific lyric actually that stuck out to me. You mentioned the song earlier, Mama. Um, there was this lyric here that I thought was especially like kind of like, wow, this is really quite affecting. It was, and don't you pray for me, my mother. I'll do the things that you never could. And so I know you said in an interview that your mom had a very successful, I guess, kind of musical career, but she put that aside to kind of prioritize motherhood. And so I'm wondering, I guess, what was kind of the impact that that kind of had on your perhaps musical career and sort of that desire to pursue music, and guess what her role has been in that for you.
I really like that that's something you picked up on because that I think is the most important part of the song and, the lyric that resonates the most with, I guess, the whole story of, my mom. And yeah, it has definitely been a huge motivator for me pursuing music. And I think, as like my mum has always been so supportive. I think she'd actually be disappointed if I stopped doing music, so it's never been an issue of, oh, when are you going to get a real job? Like, you're not going to make any money doing music. She's always been like, you have to do it, for you. And she's never made it out like she wants me to live her dreams. Like she just knows how much I love it and has always been so supportive. But I think, for me, being able to, I guess, yeah, carry the torch and do it for her as well, simply because, she's my mom and because I owe so much of, my, I guess, musicality to her and so much of, my freedom to be a creative and, pursue that as my career to her. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if it wasn't, I'll call up and be like, Mum, I have 5 cents in my bank account and I've got a book tour accommodation and it's going to cost me $600. And she's never once been like, well, why are you doing this? Why are you spending all this money? She will help me at the drop of a hat, And so I guess being able to achieve that dream or make that happen for me is a beautiful way to like, I guess have attribute my career to how much she's, supported me and raised me
Sure.
as
Yeah.
well.
I have to imagine she's very kind of she has to be very proud of what she, kind of the career and growth you've had as and sort of the artistic avenues you've been able to explore.
Yeah, she definitely is. She's so proud and she tells me all the time.
Have you guys ever done like a performance together or any kind of writing together?
We have, yes. She tried to give me singing lessons when I was 16, 17.
Mhm.
Didn't go well. Didn't want to do my scales.
Mhm.
Couldn't be bothered listening to her. Wanted to go hang out with the boys in the band instead while my
Very.
lesson was on. Yeah. Similar situation when we tried to do a band together.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're very similar people and butt heads on the same things. So, but yeah, we've done a couple of family bands, and my little brother's played drums as well.
Mhm.
And it's great, and people love it. Everyone loves a family band, and so
A lot of fun.
it is a lot of fun. And my mum's a phenomenal singer, and my brother's a really, really talented drummer. And so, I'm getting to work with amazing musicians, but we just all have the same personality, so we want to rip each other's faces off after 10 minutes.
Very
But
Fleetwood,
it's yeah. What's that?
very Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just without the, the
Yes.
dating, I guess. I mean, we're Tasmanians, so who knows? Just kidding. Anyone listening out there, that's a joke.
When did you when did you guys did you just move to Australia or did the family move as well?
So I moved from Tassie in 2013. Yeah, so I've been here like, what's that, 11, 12 years. Yeah,
Okay.
I was 19 when I left. I finished school and worked for 6 months, I think, and then was like, see ya, little island. And my brother moved here 2 years ago. Um, yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, and he lives just up the road from me with his partner and her kids, so it's really nice.
'Cause there's quite a thriving music scene in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, huge, huge. I think it's probably the healthiest music scene in the country
Oh.
for sure.
So I think I remember it was maybe like an interview Babe Rainbow did or something, but they were saying
Oh
like
yeah,
yeah, a lot we've played them on
great band.
like the psych rock you guys have down there is so much fun. It's so cool.
There is a huge psych rock scene here, and people do it well. There are
It
so many great psych rock bands.
I'm like I'm constantly amazed by the it's like a faucet that just keeps running. It's like, oh, it's all good. That's wonderful.
More, more, more.
I just, but I think it was like an interview they were saying, but it's like the atmosphere there is both like competitive, but also like incredibly collaborative. Like it's a very much kind of like everyone's gigging for everyone else, or everyone's kind of bringing other people on stage. Like it's a very, it's not like not terribly like it's not like a cutthroat sort of thing. It's more so like we're all kind of here making music, and we all have this love and passion, and we're trying to share.
Mm.
I think that's fantastic. Is that kind of the vibes you get there? What's the energy you kind of pick up from that, from the scene around there?
Definitely in Melbourne, there's a really great community here, and so, like people are just great. The scene is small. You
Mhm.
think it's massive, and I moved from such a tiny place. I was like, it's gonna be amazing. It's tiny, and it's really nice because, especially in Melbourne, like everyone's friends and everyone supports each other, and everyone plays each other's bands and goes to each other's shows. Everyone's in everyone's bands. It's hilarious. But it's great, and it's like there's a really healthy culture of supporting each other. I think on a larger scale, Australia really struggles with like tall poppy syndrome, and I guess that's more as a whole, but there are pockets, in different states where the community and the music scene is really supportive and really thriving. So it's an interesting sort of juxtaposition, I suppose,
You'll have
to the
to
rest of the country.
help me out here as a ignorant American. What is tall pop?
So it's basically like people getting too big for their boots or doing really well. And so Australia has a tendency to chop them down, like a poppy that gets too tall. So their head gets chopped off.
That I like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Fun
I
idiom.
mean, yeah, it's a weird phenomenon. And I don't know whether it's just because it is so small here and so people do get scared and do, I don't know whether it's other musicians that are necessarily doing the chopping, but
Yeah,
yeah, maybe more of a, I guess, consumer of music kind of thing or industry people. Yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, individually, other music scenes are really healthy and really supportive and great. So
it's interesting. I wonder if it's
mm.
oh sometimes because I unfortunately run around indie kids, and they were like, I knew this band where they were big, and now that they're big, I can't stand them anymore. It's like
Classic.
let them be successful. Let them pay their bills.
Yeah, we all just want to pay our bills. Oh man, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I got last question about, I guess, the musical content of the album. Um, was there any like when you're listening to the record, is there any specific moment or any specific part where you kind of listen to it and you're like, I'm very proud of this. Like I made this, and this thing is making me kind of like geek a little bit when I'm hearing this specific part.
Yeah, which I think I think listening to it's funny because I will now listen to it and nitpick everything and be like, I should have redone the vocals on this. Why did I leave that in there? This word's missing, it got chopped off, blah blah blah. But I think sometimes if I listen to it objectively, I can actually sort of hear the I guess the musical element of it, and I can hear it without it being me.
Mm.
And Eggshells, I think, is really a song that does that for me. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about that song. I think like I'm obviously super proud of it. It's my first album, and I've been doing music a long time. But yeah, there's some, and even Sun, the song at the end. I think they're the ones that kind of go a little bit more unnoticed. Maybe because they're not like super poppy or um I guess radio friendly, or like maybe they just don't connect with people. But yeah, it's really interesting seeing what's yeah, what songs connect with other people and what songs I resonate with.
Mhm.
And it changes over time. Like when we did The Curse, I was like, this is my favorite song. This is the one. And then I heard Don't Work No More, and I was like, no, 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 this is my favorite song now.
I feel
Yeah, I think there's parts of Eggshells that I guess are so different to the rest of the album. Like the end is kind of like Radioheady almost.
yes, yes,
And
it is.
it's weird. It's like a weird juxtaposition to the rest of the song. And I think I really love that.
Mhm. Well, it
Mm.
feels like, especially like if you, is it pressed on vinyl, the album?
Yeah, yeah.
It feels like that would be like eggshells and then sun would be like the kind of the ending of each side. And that sounds like that's like a perfect way to kind of taper off and sort of like bring the energy down a little bit and lead you into the kind of next side of the record or kind of flip the record. Like those, that's what those sound like to me because I love listening to stuff on albums. So that sounds like that's a very clear kind of like this is the end of side A, this is the end of side B. And that's really nice to hear.
Yeah. And it just randomly happened to turn out like that when we ordered the song. So it was meant to be.
All right. So that's kind of it for, I guess, the musical content of the record. Now I've just kind of got a few more questions before wrapping up here. Which again, thank you for your
Awesome.
time.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me, Patrick. This is my first American radio interview. So there you go.
No kidding. This is my first interview for this show, so I'm very happy to have you here.
Oh, that's great. Two firsts for us.
So I guess we'll start off here. I gotta bring this up because I'm a big fan of movies, big fan of film. Went to school for that partly, and so I'm interested. Is Amelie still your favorite movie? Hello?
Oh, can you hear me now? I don't
Hmm.
know what went on there. Yay.
Sorry. The need me to repeat the question?
Yes, thank you. It's probably
Yeah,
my dodgy internet connection out here in the bush.
no worries. I had the question and you froze, and I thought, uh-oh, I might have pushed it a bit too far here.
Just leave.
So, first kind of miscellaneous question here. Is Amelie still your favorite movie?
Oh, yes. I love that movie so much. I'm a cinemaphile. I
Yeah,
love French cinema. I love it.
really. What are,
Yeah.
what are some of the favorites, I guess?
Oh God, I can't even tell you. What have I watched recently that I love? It's one of those things, when someone asks you like to put on a song, and you're like, I don't know any songs. I've never listened to a song in my life.
Well, I saw like Amelie come up in an interview. I'm like, that's a fantastic choice because that's very much like that's such a charming movie and it's such a gorgeous looking movie. Like I love the way the shots are framed and like the way they use color in that. And so I saw you throw that out there. I was like, oh, I got to ask her about that.
It's beautiful the way it's shot. And I guess it's one of those beautiful, weird, movies that is like everything in it is just cute and sweet and it's a
Mhm.
nice ending.
Yes.
So many movies that you watch are like brutal or, violent or whatever, and they're great movies or they're, don't have a happy ending. But that is just one of those beautiful, weird, funny little movies
Mhm.
that is just nice the whole time and
It
is so beautifully shot.
is.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for.
Yeah.
I got to hear more about that. So thank you.
Can't remember any other French movies I've watched recently, so sorry
Hey,
about that, Patrick.
that's okay. I've been on like a American exploitation kick lately, so I got
Yes.
to my French
Great.
movies. My next question, I got to bring this up because this guy's from Detroit. You said in an interview that if you could jam with anybody, it would be Jack White. Can you tell me why that is?
I used to be yes, huge Jack White fan when I was a kid, and I think that obsession kind of grew as I got older and listened to bands like the Raconteurs,
Hmm.
and my appreciation for him as a songwriter was just, you know, grew so much over time because he's a fabulous writer. He was actually here not that long ago, but I was away, so I missed him. I'm really sad. Um, yeah, I would love to jam with Jack White. He's also a phenomenal producer. Like, so much of the stuff that he's worked on is just brilliant.
He's we obviously love him here, him being from this area, but there's just he's very like he seems like one of those people who's just like, I've got my own idea of how I'm gonna do stuff and I'm just gonna keep doing that. And you're like, great, it always sounds great. So keep doing that, dude. Good for you.
Yeah. You're yet to disappoint, so just keep doing what you're doing.
Um, um Another question for you. Is there a specific subject or topic that you feel very passionate or very like informed about, but you never get the chance to talk about, I guess? Like what's your Roman Empire, if you will?
Oh, my Roman Empire. I'm one of those people that knows a little bit about a lot of things,
Yeah.
and I've never been well versed in anyone's subject. Because I'll do the bare minimum research and be like, I love this,
Mhm.
and then move on to something else. But I don't know what my Roman Empire would be. I was obsessed with the weather when I was younger, and so I read a lot of meteorology books,
Yeah.
and had an obsession with clouds. So I can point at the sky and tell you what clouds are in the sky.
You
But
got
I
a
don't know what my Roman Empire would be. Oh, there's got to be some. I mean, besides spiders and bugs. I mean, I just love bugs,
I'm picking up a very like very love of the outdoors or of nature.
which is hilarious considering I have red hair and can't go outside without turning into a lobster. I got a heat stroke the other day because I was outside for too long. Like, come on.
Oh man. All right. Couple more questions here. Is what's something that we in Detroit, in America, ought to know about your hometown or country? Something we might not know.
Okay, so Launceston, which
Mhm.
is in Tasmania, where I'm from,
Mhm.
there is, I think it's one of the only places in the world where a gorge runs right through the middle of the city. And it's like this beautiful, I guess, like the river runs through, it's called the Tamar, and it runs through the middle of the town. There's this beautiful bridge that goes over the top. And if you Google it, you'll be like, what? This exists? And of course, I took it for granted as a kid. We're like, I'm not going to go to the gorge, like boring. But now when I go back, I'm like, this is unreal. It's these, I think it used to be like an old volcano.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's extinct now. But like the whole of Launceston just has a big split through the middle and these crazy rock formations that go through it. And it ends in this beautiful, I guess, like the gorge, and there's like a cute little swimming pool and you can sit there and go on these amazing walks through the bush, and there's a chairlift. The longest single span chairlift in the world is in Launceston, and it's these rickety old chairs that you sit on and you go through the gorge and hold on for dear life with the tiny bars that are keeping you safe, and you can see all the peacocks that live there and the wallabies, and it is like the most stunning beautiful place. And I was so lucky I got to grow up there and be, a snobby little teenager and never never take advantage of it.
How deep is the gorge, I guess? Like is it
That's a good question. I think the actual gorge itself, like where it ends,
yeah.
I think it's like 50 meters or something. Everyone used to like make jokes about, it being a kilometer down, but I think they dive down there. There are all those like small town myths that went around, like someone jumped in there and never came out, and they had to send submarines down and they could never find them, and it was too deep for the sub. But I think that was all a
Mhm.
lie and just a story they told us.
That sounds like
So
fun.
everyone go jumping off the rocks. But yeah, I think it's like 50 meters deep or something. So it's pretty deep. It's pretty
Wow.
deep. There's eels in there. They're just kind of gross.
There's eels in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Not a fan of eels?
Not when they swim on your legs while you're like trying to get out of the water.
Are they I've never encountered an eel before. Are they electric? What's the I don't I've heard them called electric eels. How does this work? They confuse me.
They're definitely not electric ones, or, I think a lot more people would be probably dead. But Yeah, I don't know what the eels are that are in there. They're like brown and slimy. Out where my mum lives in Westbury, there's heaps of eels that live in the river. And like whenever I go back and visit my mum, we'll go for a walk and I'll think there's snakes in the river, but they're not. They're just these little eels swimming, trying to get over the rocks. They're slimy and gross.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Cool, but slimy.
that's much better than a snake having an eel floating around.
Yeah, look, to be honest, at least the eels can't get out of the water. Snakes, on the other hand, they go wherever they want.
Um, all right, so that was about your town. Thank you for yeah.
No problem.
Something that we ought to know about you.
Ooh, what is something that you would like to know about me? Mm, I love cooking. I'm not a very good cook, but I love it. And I'm not a very good swimmer, probably because I never went outside because I was too pale. What else? What else should you know about me? I have an 8 foot tall monstera. You can't see it because it's in the corner of the room.
It's a Montserrat.
Yep. Can you see that?
Yeah, wow.
It nearly touches my ceiling. So that is my pride and joy.
That is very cool.
It's a huge plant
Where did that
and
come?
probably the only big plant I've been able to keep alive. So that is my pride and joy.
That is very cool. I'll learn more about
What else? I love graphic design and interior design, and I work in a tattoo shop.
really. When was that?
It's good. I'm just a receptionist, but I get to hang out with a bunch of cool friends who do tattoos all day and just sit there and answer the phone and let people in the door. And it's great.
You get do you get discounts on tattoos then?
I do, but I'm taking all of mine off. My
Really?
best friend's a laser removalist, so she's getting rid of them for me. I know. How crazy. Got them all when I was like 22 and then thought, if I hate them in 5 years' time, I'll just get them lasered off. So I did.
There you go.
Nothing is permanent.
Wow. All right. And then finally, last question here. Do you have a new favorite song you've been listening to?
Oh, yes. What have I been listening to? I've been listening to Surprise Chef a lot, actually, which are another great Melbourne band.
Not
I
heard of
think yeah, you probably like them.
Surprise.
They're like, I'm trying to think. They're sort of like cool. I don't even know how to describe the genre, but like funky instrumental. I don't know if they're sort of blowing up right now. Another Australian band called Glass Beams.
I don't think I've heard of that. This is great. I'm always looking.
Also very cool. I've gone on a big instrumental band
Yeah.
road at the moment. Yeah. I don't know. I think instrumental bands are coming back and I'm here for it.
Glass Beam's one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. They're really cool. And they wear these beautiful beaded glass masks and no one knows what they look like.
Oh,
It's
that
really cool and mysterious.
oh, that's fun. You build intrigue there.
Yeah. You'd like them. Them, Surprise Chef. And who else have I been loving? RVG, also another fantastic Australian band.
This is
They're
cool.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you all the recos.
Thank you very much. The new stuff to play on the show. So this helps when I get stuff from you guys. That's great.
Great. Yeah, I'll send you a list.
That's that's really all I kind of had to talk questions I had for you today, and I really appreciate you being so willing to give your time and coming here and talk to us. Thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. This is an absolute pleasure and an honor. So thank you.
Um, so obviously we want folks to check out New Molts, and you said that you got the new album, you've written everything. How's that looking, I guess, for when that might be coming together, might be a cohesive kind of record.
I'm going into the studio in May And I think, yeah, I think there may be an American trip on the cards just quietly. So we will see.
Really?
Yes.
You'll have to
But
come.
yeah, hell yeah, I will. Definitely. So yeah, we shall see. I might be there in 6 months' time.
You ever played in America?
No, I've never been. I've never been. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to come over and I also just want to come and check out bands. Like I want to go to, the desert and just go wander into some pub in the middle of nowhere and watch a band. I'm
There are,
really excited for that.
if you ever like, that's basically just what Nashville is. If you're ever down there, they just have the most incredible musician you've ever met in your life, just like busking, and there's like six.
Oh,
Oh, and it's mind blowing that these people are just doing this, and they're like, it's like disposable. It's baffling.
yeah, that's just crazy to me. I guess because like here, like that obviously happens here, but it's not on the same scale because we have such a tiny population for such a huge, vast expanse of land. And so most of our, I guess, pubs or venues or whatever are all sort of concentrated in like one area.
Mhm.
And so there's not that same, I mean, I'm sure if you go out to regional parts of the country, you could see some amazing shredder in a pub somewhere. But I think it's much less likely than it is in the States. You're probably just going to find someone playing some, cheesy covers, which is fine.
That sounds like a
Good
great
for
time.
them. I mean, yeah, to be honest, a couple of beers on a, 40-degree day, watching some Jason Mraz covers goes down pretty well. I'm not going to lie.
Really? Is he from is he Australian?
No, I think Jason Mraz is American. I think. Oh, he's English.
Is he?
Yeah, what was that song he had?
It was a
So
commercial.
you done me and you bet I felt it. I tried to be cool, but you're so hot that I melted. Yeah, is he American or is he maybe he's from the UK? I can't remember.
I don't know. I just remember there was like a TV spot when I was a kid with like recycling. It was like an ad for recycling, and that song would play over it, and he would like wander around like with his guitar.
Sick. Good for him. He's probably so rich from that song.
You think what would you do if you had a song kind of blow up like that?
I would move further out to the country and I would have a little cottage and a little studio and some animals running around. And I'd travel. I just want to travel the world and play music. That's all I want to do for the rest of my life.
Didn't you you were in you were playing Japan, weren't you?
Oh, I went to Japan. Yeah, I did really want to try and get some shows while I was over there, but it didn't quite work out. I was actually over there for a motorbike festival. Well, motorbike hot rod festival.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, very cool.
It was so amazing. Man, Japanese people do hot rods and motorbikes. It's unreal.
A lot
It's
of.
so sick. I was in heaven.
Are you big fan of that sort of stuff then? The motorbikes and the cars and the
Yeah, a bit of a petrol head.
again, you gotta
That's
come.
what I'd do if I had a hit song like Jason Mraz. I'd buy old cars and motorbikes.
You gotta do it. This is Detroit is the Motor City. Like that is literally what we're called.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. I'm coming straight to Detroit, Patrick. I'm telling you.
We've had
Yeah, I'll ride into the studio on a motorbike or seven.
you would I mean, hey, you wouldn't be the first. You just kind of bring your whole motorcycle gang.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
It'd be very cool.
my entourage.
Yeah. Well, is there anything, I guess anything you'd like to promote, anything you'd like to kind of because you're playing a few festivals soon coming up, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've got one this week, couple this weekend, and then through to March. And then we've got another little tour to announce for April. And then another one in May, and then hopefully a trip to the States. So
That
that's my year planned out, which is great.
It's exciting. Does it get exhausting, the kind of bouncing around traveling?
It does. in some ways, I guess it's always easier when you don't have a day job. You know,
Mhm.
that makes it a lot easier so you can rest during the week.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is exhausting, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love getting to be exhausted because I've been flying around playing shows. Like that rules.
That sounds like a great reason to be exhausted.
I wouldn't want to be exhausted by anything else, that's for sure.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, thank you, Patrick, and thank you so much for playing my music. It means the world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's wild that people in another country get to hear songs that I wrote. That's crazy to me.
Your new favorite songs, what we want to help people find. Well, thank you, and have a great rest of your day. I guess it's just starting over there.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna go for a bike ride, I think, before the sun gets too hot. We're in for another scorcher today, so
Okay. Love a good
try
bike.
not to get sunburnt again.
Good luck to you with that. I can empathize. Don't tan, I
No
burn.
sun for us.
Mhm.
Oh, well, thank you so much again, Patrick. I really, really appreciate it. It's been so lovely talking to you.
Been great talking to you.